Welcome to the Zen AF Hustle Podcast. I'm your host, Julia Garcia Devaney. I'm a life and mindset coach for female founders, and my mission is to help thousands of ambitious, busy women become the number one asset in their life and business. Tune in as I share with you the behind the scenes of my own ambitious journey and help you bring the Zen back into your hustle so you can create the impact you desire and truly love your own ambitious journey as well. Welcome, and let's get into the episode. Hello, my ambitious babes. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. And today, do I have any updates for you? My Xenia Wellness Planner. I do have a little bit of an update. It's just, it's in the design phase still. However, we are really making some moves on it, so I'm really excited. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but my designer had gone a little ghost, tiny bit ghost, not too much, but then it turns out she had a boob job and she's just recovering from it. Seems like she's doing fine. And we are back on track. But yeah, that's basically the only update I have right now. I've been planning my baby sprinkle. I just got done planning my daughter's 5th birthday. So now I'm just in a lot more planning mode. I'm trying to plan my maternity shoot and, all the fun things that kind of come along with a pregnancy, which usually is exciting, especially like the first time around. But once you are on your third, I have to say I'm doing it out of pure labor of love. My daughters love looking back at their maternity shoot and love knowing that they were in my belly and all that stuff. So if it were up to me, I would, just planning in general is a big process, a big mental load for me. So it's not like the most fun thing for me to do. However, I would love to give them these memories, and we're moms. We are the ones that make the magic happen in this sense. So I definitely want that for my youngest daughter, my last daughter, to have that to look back on. So I'm excited for that. So I've been doing all the plannings and nestings and all that stuff throughout the bursts of time of energy that I've had throughout this pregnancy. So, and it's a little bit of what I want to talk to you about today, about today's episode, which I'm titling All Things Pregnancy, 3rd Trimester, 3rd Baby. I have no idea if this is going to be useful for many of you or not, but I am called to just share my experience of what I have been kind of encountering, just in case it is. And I just wanted to put all things pregnancy in one episode. I know I've been sprinkling it in other episodes, and trying to make it as valuable to you as possible. But I think we're just going to talk pregnancy, talk mom talk. And I'm going to share with you the things that, how my pregnancy 3rd time around has been going, what has been useful. And I hope that it's useful for you if you are a mom, inspiring mom, soon to be mom, what have you. You guys know I'm always a little bit apprehensive to do episodes like this because the last thing I want to do is sit here and sound like I'm complaining or something like that when I'm just trying to share the behind the scenes and share my experience. So I think that I have come far enough where I'm still pregnant, but I'm not 100% through the process, but I feel like I have processed so much, and I think that it'll be valuable for many of you. So talking all things pregnancy, all things third, on my 3rd trimester, 3rd baby, I really do believe that I have a lot of value to share in this sense, right? I call it the third, well, not really the 3rd level. I usually say I'm on level 5 because my oldest is now 5. But if we could call it another kind of dimension, I'm on the third dimension of level 5 with 3, because things do get different. They do get trickier. And, things are just different. So obviously, this time around is so much different because I have two toddlers essentially that I have to care for while I'm going through pregnancy. So I want to share some of the things that I have encountered and some of the things that have really, really helped me throughout this pregnancy in hopes that it'll help you as well. So let's just start with the first thing. The first thing I did, one of the first things I did in early on in my pregnancy is I actually hired a therapist. I went on this site called Alma and I found a therapist that takes my insurance and all that stuff. So, and it's like really my first time, not my first time, I've had therapists before, but I really didn't continue on with them very much. But this has been the first time I have been kind of seeing a therapist on a weekly basis since I would think, I can't remember exactly when we started, but it was during the first trimester, I think, of my pregnancy. And I decided to do this because I really felt those hormones coming in tough. I knew that with, two little ones to look after and, still have my business and my house and my marriage and all that stuff to consider, like, I just knew that I'm not going to be able to do it all myself. One. Number two, I don't want to put so much pressure on my husband to be everything because I was already putting a lot of pressure on him to have to do things that I couldn't do physically anymore, including helping me like much more with the girls and with cooking and ordering and like just managing some of the things that are usually my domain, right? Along with everything that he has to do with working from home. So I knew that I didn't want to put the extra burden of like having to completely manage and help me manage my emotions and all that stuff. So I just knew those times were coming. I know that like when I have all these hormones kind of rushing through my body, I'm not at my best state in the sense of like, I'm usually really good at being self aware and processing my own shit and like handling my emotions. Like, actually, it's one of the reasons he really fell in love with me because he had never witnessed that in a woman before to this extent. And, you know, with that awareness still comes the fact that like I still have to go through it. I'm not exempt from having to go through the process of like feeling those very strong, real emotions. And I know that I was going to need support in one way or another. So, like, having that foresight to knowing that I'm already putting a lot of more pressure on my husband and stuff like that. And by the way, like, he has still been great at understanding this process. I mean, of course, he has grown with me. This is also his third baby and this third time going through the experience with me in pregnancy. So he has seen the hormones at play before. He, for the most part, knows what to expect, but he's not like, he's still a guy. He's not always as in tune or like, prepared for every single curveball that comes at him. But he's been amazing nonetheless. Again, just as a precaution, I wanted to have somebody else that has a trained skill in active listening and is not going to try to give me advice from their perspective, which I would hope that a therapist didn't do, right? And this is why it's important, right? Because like I have girlfriends for sure, but none of them have 3 kids. None of them have been married as long as I have. None of them have a business and a household to maintain on top of that. Like I am in a different place in my life because I'm a little bit older, and not even just because I'm a little bit older. We're just all quite different. So I just don't have that that's those like friendships and like those relationships that correlate completely. And frankly, I don't take advice from people that don't really understand or I can't aspire to be like or whatever. We're just in a different place, and that's like nobody's fault, right? So I also don't depend on them to really gain some of that. I don't know how to say, just some of that support, emotional support, right? Because as well-meaning as friends are, sometimes they give you advice from their lens and from their perspective and from their biases and from their only lived experiences. And so when they haven't lived the experience that I have lived, then like how can they really meet me where I'm at? So I hired a therapist, and it's been amazing. It's just been me really just talking every single week with somebody. And again, like she doesn't share any crazy insights or anything like that. I mean, I just talk and, kind of divulge some of the things that have been going on, and it has been so useful. I feel like the hormones were the most ragey during the first trimester and even the second trimester. Like I felt a lot of points of tension in that time. So it was very, very useful. And that's one of the first things I would really recommend, whether it's your first baby, your third baby, whether you got no babies. I would really recommend a coach or a therapist to really talk to if you know that you are, embarking in something that is challenging, that is, beyond your growth capacity at that moment, right? Like I've never been a third time mom. Like this is new. I'm growing into something new. It is difficult to say the least in many different ways. So just having somebody to like feel like I can complain to, that is not that I don't have to worry about if they understand or not. They're literally just there to hold that space, has been so instrumental for my well-being overall, and I think has really helped in my relationships and just overall life to really keep going and maintain and get through some of the very real and difficult parts of being pregnant. So along in those early times with the hormonal and mental and emotional component, there's also the physical component. So I've been really prioritizing lymphatic massages, hydration, because I just have a body that tends to hold on to a lot of retain a lot of liquid basically, and also strength training. So these are some of the things that I have physically leaned on to help, or have leaned on to help me physically, right? Chiropractor appointments as well, and hypnosis, which I'll get into a little bit more later because it's going to be playing a bigger role for me in this third trimester. But I have really been prioritizing that kind of self-care, right? Like a lot of people try to say that self-care is not bubble baths and massages, but like actually it is. It's not everything, but clearly I just spoke about the therapy part where it's like you have to be taking care of your financial, although there is financial well-being for sure. And that's actually something that I didn't put on my list, but I also started taking care of because, which I digress a tiny bit, but I really started setting myself up a little bit better financially, because I'm not going to have a certain income, and I had never set up like a business account. So I like started doing all these things financially to just really set myself up for success and hopefully, just a more seamless experience postpartum and things like that. So there's a lot of things that I had to do with my business to really prepare for this pregnancy as well, for the postpartum period as well. And a lot of that stuff was financial, just getting a lot of my finances in order, which was just personally for me not something fun to look at. It's something that I like to avoid quite a bit. And as much as I love organizing like my house and stuff like that, organizing my finances has just never been something that is necessarily, it's just overwhelming to me. So I also took time to do that and really set myself up for a good like final trimester and postpartum period, that fourth trimester. So I'm hoping that all of that will kind of pay off and I can really focus on the things that I want to focus on, which is healing my body and my baby. But yes, I also, like I mentioned, focused on my mental health and my emotional health. But the physical is very real as well. It is so real as well. Like it has been probably the most tolling on me than anything else and has affected the emotional and the physical. So anything that I could do physically, in terms of like just taking care of my actual body has been super, super helpful to me. And again, some of that stuff was like the strength training. Like this has been the first pregnancy that I have gone basically the whole time being able to be active and working out, minus the first trimester. So a lot of people see me working out every week and my workout is pretty intense, right? It's the HIIT style Pilates that you guys can find in my Get Zen AF app, right? I have some uh, some workouts in there just to give you some more tools to use, right? However, this workout I usually do it in a hot room and it's pretty intense just on its own, but let alone if you're pregnant. So a lot of people have asked me like, how did I manage that or when, I mean, the first thing I would say is, talk to your doctor. My doctor was new to me and I'm new to them. And so when I told them like I'm teaching and working out in this hot room, they did tell me like they didn't really like advise they didn't advise for that. However, I tried to explain to them like this is something that I've been doing for years and is not new to me. So the rule of thumb really is that you can kind of continue doing what you have been used to doing, just obviously taking precautions and making modifications. And since I'm an instructor, I know exactly how to do that. So it's not something that I would recommend across the board, right? But you definitely want to talk to your doctor. But I didn't do anything my first trimester. I was still teaching, but the room is not as hot as a sauna by any means. And, it's not, yeah, it's just not that hot, right? Like it's because you're not supposed to I would not actually go sit in a sauna or a steam room at this point by any means, but the room is actually not as hot as those things are. So I don't do anything really the first trimester, even if I was able-bodied, even though I wasn't, right? Because I was quite nauseous and sick. So I was laying down more than anything. And if I could muster up the strength and the courage to go for a walk in this Miami heat, then I would. But that was more so out of like just trying to like give my body the very bare minimum of some kind of movement that I felt like I needed to give it. But mostly, other than that, I really don't do anything first trimester with any of my pregnancies. I really let things just, hibernate, I guess, in there and really formulate as much as possible. And then starting my second trimester, I go again. This pregnancy has been the first pregnancy where I've actually been able to maintain the workout, like my workouts. And I only right now work out once a week because my first pregnancy, I was basically moving across country at 7 months pregnant, which was really tough. My second pregnancy, I did some workouts in the beginning. And actually, it's really hard for me to remember my second pregnancy, to be honest, probably because I was so busy with my toddler at the time. But I do remember working out a little bit, and then I got COVID in my 7th month of pregnancy as well. So that all kind of halted, and I never got back into it. So this has been the first time that I have been able to kind of really maintain some of that consistency. So, and it's really, really helped since I have chronic pain. I have whiplash. I have SI joint pain from my first pregnancy, not being able to work out and strength train and maintain the weight that I was gaining and my body was not used to having. Other parts of your body will like overcompensate to really hold that weight. And that's where injuries happen and chronic injuries happen, like my SI joint pain. So that's why it was really, really important to me to maintain that strength training and just fitness in general. And this, along with some of the chiropractic visits, have been really important for me. And I was doing a massage therapy before I got pregnant, and there was 10 sessions, and I think I got up to 7. I haven't finished it, and I don't know if I plan to finish it because I can't feel that I had a lot of changes in my body in terms of the chronic pain. There was some improvement, but I would say out of 100% improvement, it was probably like 30% improvement that happened in my body. And so I kind of stopped those therapies, those massage therapies that were called Soma. And I'm going to try something else coming up. I think I'll let you guys know how it goes, but it's like a little bit of energy healing / a very light form of chiropractic. So we'll see what happens with that. For me, like the chronic pain and the physical component really does play a big role because it interrupts sleep. And when you interrupt sleep, then it really just snowballs into so many different things. It snowballs into the mental and emotional quite a bit, at least for me. I become a lot more reactive and things like that if I don't get sleep. So I like to really prioritize those things. So the other thing that kind of goes along with all of this is really practicing so much compassion and so much presence with myself, which has been probably one of the most challenging things. And I talked about it a little bit. I think I talked about it in my journal challenge that just finished, but you guys still have access until the second week of September if you guys want to download the Good Zen AF app and watch those replays and do your journal challenge inside the community. But this really comes more from the fact that I am just not as able as I was when I was able. So, naturally there's like a point of like almost like a learning curve or just a, grace, a time for grace, that you have to allow yourself to really understand the changes that are happening. Because, I went from, playing paddleball every Tuesday and, picking up my girls and doing stuff with them and doing all like just doing it, right? To like not being able to do it. So, this comes with like a little bit of grief because I'm just not as able. And it also comes with some guilt for not being able, to like be as present with my girls and so on and so forth. So I really had to manage a lot of that internally, as I'm in bed, and I have to moment by moment decide if I'm going to push or if I'm going to be kind and just stay in bed, right? So there's always things that need to get done, and I had found myself really meeting so much of my capacity every single day, physically mostly, but also mentally and emotionally as well, right? Because I don't want to bring on any stress to my baby and stuff like that. So there was my girls are changing, they're growing, they're arguing a lot more, they're doing the sibling thing, and you're trying to parent, you're trying to discipline, you're trying to do all the things that you are supposed to do, and it's just like, wow, like it's just very tolling. So really finding that compassion for myself and being present with myself has been just a 24-hour, moment by moment, minute by minute job of like, can I do this or can I not do this? What can I do? What is my capacity at every single moment? What is my challenge? What is like my best? What is like all of those things? So I just have to be so aware, it feels like, every single moment. And then finally just understanding what those capacities are and finding grace for myself, finding compassion and kindness for myself when I was not able, when I was not able to do the things that I'm usually able to do, right? So that has been such an instrumental thing. If you want to call it a tool, I would definitely call it a tool. I really love teaching compassion because a lot of ambitious women really lack that ability, right? So whether it's a tool or a muscle, whatever you want, however you want to kind of depict it or use as an analogy or metaphor for, like, it really is something that is needed and you need to develop, especially as an ambitious woman that is usually so capable, so able, so, using willpower and pushing through and pushing through. Sometimes compassion is really the key to more growth and more productivity and more of the things that you want. And it's often the thing that we practice the least. So I really took this opportunity to practice compassion for myself a lot more and even fight for that compassion a lot more, especially when I would get challenged with like what were my capabilities or not. Like, I really fought for that compassion for myself and for my intuition of like knowing what it is that I needed in every moment and not letting anybody else or anything else determine what I was capable of or not capable of. Like, that was for me to determine. And that was also really empowering. So, which brings me to my next thing that has really helped me in getting into this third trimester, third baby, has been communication. Being so in tune, so present, having that compassion with myself, really developing my intuition, just knowing myself so much in this process, and meeting myself at every point that I needed to be met and giving myself that. Knowing myself has been like the greatest gift because then it really, really allows me to communicate better. And this is something I talk about quite a bit in terms of mindset because, and nervous system and all those things, because like you are your life is full of relationships, and those relationships are really harnessed by the kind of communication that you can have with those people, right? So if your communication is not where it needs to be, it is lacking in some sense, there's going to be a breakdown in those relationships as well. So this is something that is, I know firsthand is difficult sometimes to do when you have so many hormones at play and you're mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted and all these things. So it takes a lot of real practice and strength of those communication skills to get to a place where you can really do that at any level. And again, like sometimes my communication breaks down just, like everybody else. However, I feel very proud of myself for being able to communicate the things that I need in this moment, at least when I get a clear kind of break in the clouds, if you want to say that. But what I will say is that definitely everything that I talked about before, which was like really taking care of myself, being so in tune with myself, knowing exactly what it is that I need and don't need, really gives me the strength to communicate a lot better those things that I need and don't need. And when it comes to relationships, and specifically like marriage relationships, when you have to speak to a man, basically, like you have to understand that they are going to try to fix a problem, right? They're going to go into problem solving mode, solution based mode, which is great and fine for them. However, that is why it's so important for you to be aware of what it is that you need in any given moment. That's why I, again, hired a therapist so I didn't have to do that. So I can just divulge and tell her things, and she is not going to try to like fix anything, right? Sometimes we just, as women, need to talk. And I remember I had one instance where my husband asked me something about something. And I mean, I had just had a day already. Like my 2-year old was already, she had just finished like a crazy meltdown. And I was just physically just at my wit's end as well, with so much that just goes into life at this time. And he asked me like how I was or something along those lines, something, whatever. But I was so overwhelmed in that moment that I actually told him the truth, where I was just like, this is going on and this is just very hard. And of course, like, he's going to go into a little bit of problem solving mode and stuff like that. And I just left it alone because obviously that's not what I wanted to hear in that moment. I left it alone. Even like, I'm just so proud of myself because even in like that day where I'm already so overwhelmed on every front, like just at my capacity on every front, mentally, emotionally, physically, all the things. I just left it alone. I gathered myself, I gathered my thoughts. And when I was able to speak to him without the kids being around and whatever, I was able to like really communicate clearly. And what I said is like, I'm sorry for not being in a place where I could have prefaced this before, but I'm going to do it now when, because you caught me off guard and I was just already overwhelmed and I actually just told you how I was feeling. But ultimately, I don't need you to fix my problems. I don't need you to solve for anything in that moment. If you really want to know like what you can do and what would help, I'll tell you. However, if you don't, that is fine too. It's not, but like, I don't need you to tell me anything that I don't already know. Like, there's just nothing that you can tell me that I have not already tried to think about, do, or what have you, right? Like, because again, I am moment by moment, 24/7, trying to understand what my body needs, what myself needs to feel better. Like I'm always trying to get myself back to an equilibrium. So there's just no way that you can solve a problem for me that I have not already tried to solve for myself in this sense. There's just no way that you can understand, right? Because you have never had to carry a baby before. Again, in a very loving way, in a very like just calm way. And it's just a very realistic way. Like they just don't get it. Like, what else can you do? And like this was like just one of the best ways to communicate. And was able to clarify, like, if you do want to do something, if you do want to offer something, then the best thing you could do is provide me with some positive reinforcement. You are doing a good job. It will be over soon. You're doing great. Like, whatever it is, I need positive reinforcement because that is something that is also like a muscle that is getting weak. And it gets weak on the tough days. And every day seems to be very tough. Is holding that belief that, this is going to be over soon. Like sometimes I swear to God, like I don't even remember what it felt like to be able-bodied or whatever. Like I would have to ask him, like, I would go and work out, right? Like I went and like took walks and I felt fine, right? And of course he would tell me that I would complain sometimes because I have chronic pain. But for the most part, yeah, I was like really active and healthy and fine and I felt good. Like I just like my body, like my brain just doesn't want to remember those things. And he's like, and I was like, these are some of the things that would be great to just be reminded of or whatever. Cause I feel like I'm just doing it all mentally, like on my own, just trying to convince myself of all these things on my own. And my brain literally does not even let me try to remember those things. And so he would tell me like, yeah, like when you had our first, like you did all your workouts, you like even filmed them and you put out your series and stuff like that. Like, and I was just like, God, like, yeah, like logically I remember all those things, but it's like almost like I don't even remember the feeling of them. So yeah, I told him that what I needed in the moment and how it would, help me. And he was more than all ears for that, right? Whereas a lot of the time, sometimes we just blow up as women. We kind of reach our wits' end with that. And, we really communicate in a very negative way. And like, that just is never going to turn out well for anybody. And I promise you, this is coming from somebody that is a recovering, reactive person. Like, you can harness this skill, you can build this muscle, you can take that beat, compose yourself, compose what you want to say, what you actually want the outcome to be. Like, what is like as ambitious women, I feel like we're results driven. So it's like, what do you actually want the result to be? And let's work towards that. And I'll tell you straight up that I still have moments where that is not always picture perfect, right? Again, I'm not exempt from any of this. I'm just hoping to share my experience and some of my better times to show you like what is possible. I also was able to communicate and explain how, for the most part, right? I don't know. I don't expect anybody to understand completely, especially a man that has never and will never go through a process like, becoming a mom, because most of their lives stay super consistent, right? They don't go through the actual physical changes like in your body, in your brain. Like, there is a huge identity breakdown that happens with every pregnancy and every labor and all the things. So there's just like, we have to account for that as women. And if it's possible, communicate that to your partner, even though I wouldn't recommend holding them to understanding any of it, right? Because it's all going to be super like hypothetical to them, right? But again, meeting yourself where you are and understanding those things about yourself and what that looks like this time around for me, is is different. It has been different from the first two. Knowing that this is again my last one is a thing, and also just being like, what is this gonna look like? I don't know, but we're going to see. And yeah, I just feel like my brain is doing what it needs to do, forgetting all the things that it needs to forget to make space for this next version of me, whatever that is. And I am excited to build that up, because I know that that's really what happens. We break down so that we can build up who we want to be. And that's basically what I've done with my first two. The first one, I did not know that was going to happen. So that was a real mind fuck. But the second time, I was able to do that as well. And this one, I feel like even more so, because even with my second one, I was moving at 7 weeks postpartum. So I was going through a lot, I just was going through a lot that postpartum. So because we moved back to a new city and we were in a new home, and I had to I'm literally still decorating the walls in this place, like just getting all the things in order in our house and stuff like that. So there was just a lot kind of going on. I feel like this time, I'm settled for the most part, and it's just different. It's just different. And so I'm going to be open to whatever it looks like for this kind of rebuilding of this new identity of who I am, and with like a new business and all the things. So I think I was able to communicate a little bit of that and hopefully get a little bit of more, offer a different perspective, right? Of just like, oh, we're having a baby. No, your like wife is literally going through like a whole identity shift yet again. So here we are. Okay, and finally, something that I tried early on and then had to let go of because I was just like, oh my God, this is not working for me. Like, it's more body based, right? Because I was so nauseous in the beginning. I actually, the tool that really helped me in the beginning with my nausea and stuff like that was EFT, because I could really like, do it something physically. But I am revisiting now is hypnosis. And I am actually planning on potentially going unmedicated this labor. And the reasons behind it are a couple of them. Number one, I kind of just want to do it for the plot. I kind of want to do it for the experience, let it be the 3 profile in me in human design, but I kind of just want to go through the experience. My first labor was completely induced. It was not the most positive experience by any means. I was 1 week overdue. They called me for the induction. I don't know how much drugs they pumped into me. They gave me some pill underneath my tongue, and then something else, and then some, that they inserted, and then something else, like then the Pitocin. So like I had so many drugs in me doing things to my body that my body was not naturally ready to do. And that was a very not positive experience. Those contractions were something like I have never thought of before. I literally could not breathe. I thought I was going to pass out. I genuinely thought I was like, I might die during some of those contractions, the peak of those contractions. Like, I had so many people in my room. Nobody was being helpful. Finally, this blessed doula that worked for the hospital came in. I could finally pry my eyes open and remember to breathe. And I just started counting my breaths. And I think that that's really what got me through. My body was not dilating. I think I was only 3 centimeters dilated. They gave me a minimum of when they could give me the epidural. I begged them for the epidural because I told them there is no way, like, this is not natural what's happening to me. And I was not knowledgeable at all of that experience. So all I knew is that it was not natural. And I told them straight up, my body is not going to relax like this. It is not going to open up. It is not ready. It feels so freaking unsafe. It's not even funny. So if you don't give me this epidural right now, I'm going to die, like, straight up. So I think that they gave it to me finally. And then, yes, then I could relax. Then my body started doing what it needed to do. The second time around, I I had more tools at my disposal. I had some NLP techniques. So I literally inserted like an amazing labor into my timeline. And for the most part, it was like textbook, like mucus plug, water breaks, go to the hospital, ready to go. And I'm like begging them, like, not begging them, but I was like telling them as soon as we got there, because I was like, whoa, this baby's coming in hot. And I didn't want to miss my chance to get an epidural, because I was like, there's just no way that I'm going to go through that pain again. So I was like adamant about the epidural as soon as I got in there. And of course, like, so they got it queued up to go. And what I remember thinking, and like I had hypnosis at the time, but I had no intention of going unmedicated because, again, of my trauma the first time around. But what I kind of noticed now in retrospect was like those contractions were nothing compared to the induction contractions. The contractions the second time, the natural ones, were a lot more manageable. And if I could control certain things a little bit more now that I know what to expect. I mean, like, there was like a nurse asking me the stupidest questions, and she's like, oh, I can come back. I'm like, you think if we could come back, then like, let's just do this later. Like, I'm in active labor right now. I'm trying to focus on my breath and manage this pain. Like, get out of here, you know? And the only thing is that I did have a botched epidural. So what happened was that I had an anesthesiologist. I think he was like I don't know what they call him, but he wasn't a student, but he was like a resident. I'm not sure. Anyway, he was not the real deal. And he was the worst. Like, he poked me, I don't know how many times in my back. The pain was so excruciating. And I would tell him, like, I remember my first time, like the anesthesiologist was very nice and very like accommodating. Like if I had a contraction coming, he would wait until it passed and do it like right after. This guy was poking me so damn much and so damn hard, and I would tell him there's a contraction coming, can you wait? And he would go, no, we're going now, and like just go into my spine, and like it felt like there people were, there was a needle just searching through my spine. I don't even know. And it would be excruciating like pain during the contractions and with this needle in my back. So he actually ended up botching that a little bit. He ended up piercing my spinal fluid, which I didn't know at the time. I ended up having, it ended up working and whatever. And right afterwards, they checked me and they're like, oh, you're already like 10 centimeters dilated. And they're like, you could literally catch your breath and like we can go whenever you want to go. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just catch my breath because if this baby's ready to come, I don't want to like, you know, I don't want to like prolong it. So that's what I did. And she was out like super soon after that. So, but what I realized was like, whoa, like I pretty much went through all of those contractions unmedicated if I was already 10 centimeters dilated. And from what I'm hearing, 7 to 10 is kind of the worst. So, yeah, like, because, yes, I want to do it for the plot. I kind of want to do it just to have the experience of it and just to see how it is. But secondly, I had so much intervention, I think, with like the first two, the first one with the induction and this and that, and the second one with this botched epidural. So what happens when they puncture your spinal fluid is you get what they call epidural headaches, but I would more so call it a paralyzation. I was basically paralyzed from the chest up, and it didn't kick in until the next day. Or like, the next day when I was trying to feed my baby, then I couldn't even look down at her to like feed her. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And the only fix was a crap ton of Motrin and coffee pills. And so I was like, you want me to drink coffee pills, like, or have coffee pills and like a crap ton of Motrin of these drugs when like I'm breastfeeding my baby and like trying to find sleep at any moment that I can? Like, this is crazy. So I went like that for like a week, and it was just unbearable, really. So I had to go back to the ER, and this was like peak COVID times. So I had to go back to the ER. They almost didn't let in my newborn until I pleaded with them to like release whatever stupid protocol they have to understand that this is a human being that is still, needs me, that is like a week old and needs me. And I was in this ER with like crackheads and all sorts of things just behind a curtain. And like I had to get a second epidural, and they had to draw my blood and put the blood in to clot the spinal fluid leak, which was basically instant. So I pretty much got instant relief. But yeah, that was like not something I want to go through again, any of it, right? So I want to have as minimal and as natural of an experience as possible, obviously for good reason. But this is still very scary for me to like think about and consider. I am not the one to be able to manage pain that well. So I don't know. Like we're going to see. I'm not going to say that I'm set on anything specifically. I think that when it comes to labor and birth, it's hard to do that. When people get really stuck on their birth plans and they go a different way, like, it causes, again, a lot of trauma and stuff. So I want to be as open as possible. However, I know how to advocate a lot better for myself now. I know the things that happen, or a lot more of the things that happen, or people can suggest and like whatever. And I know that I can, the things that I can look out for and hopefully manage to the best of my ability. And so one of the things that I want to do is really try to just go through the process as naturally as possible. And for that, I want to use hypnosis. So I literally just signed up for a hypnosis course in this. I mean, I'm already a hypnosis practitioner, but I want to really learn about the stages of labor and like, and I already do breath work, but I really want to see what they recommend specifically for pregnancy, and not pregnancy, for labor and birth, the birth experience. So I'm signed up for that, but I am also using this app that is absolutely amazing. If you want it, just DM me. But and I'll tell you which one it is. I think it's called Blessed or something like that on the App Store. And there's just like a few hypnosises and like some like sleep hypnosises that I've been using and that have been really nice and to help me mentally prepare for for a labor. So we'll see how that goes. Like, don't hold me to it, guys, because it's a lot of pressure, but that's really what I'm intending right now. And I have two pretty good whys. One, again, is just to have that experience, and two is to have like the least intervention possible. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, these are the things, third trimester, third baby, that have been really helping me through this pregnancy, and I hope that some of this was useful for you as well. All right, I love you guys. I'll talk to you next week. Anything that you guys want to share with me, any favorite takeaways, find me at Julia Garcia Devaney. Thanks for listening, Ambitious Babe. If you loved this episode, take a screenshot and share your favorite takeaways with me at Julia Garcia Devaney, and be sure to leave us a review, as that would mean so much. And if you're ready to put the Zen back into your hustle and love your ambitious journey, be sure to download the Get Zen AF app, where you'll learn to prioritize yourself and truly become the number one asset in your life and business. It's available in the App Store and Google Play. Check out the links in the show notes, and I'll see you inside.